Hello, everyone. Mike Valentine here, and welcome to the final edition, number 5 of the NFL Supplemental Draft, when we decide which teams might actually be interested in Brendan Sorsby if he takes the supplemental draft route. But first, the very first one that we did, we defined what the draft was, and we told you why it existed, who was eligible, and how it actually worked. Then we talked about the current Texas Tech quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, that we'll talk about today, and what the supplemental draft may mean to him in his NFL career. So we just kept building and building. The third one, we looked at 4 separate not just Ohio State, but 4 separate football players that also took the supplemental draft route, what kind of success they had, and which one of those 4 we think Brandon will be closest to. Then we looked at and we did some research on, is gambling becoming a problem in college football and the ramifications of that? If you don't watch any of the other ones, watch that one. I really like that. I gave you some really good opinions on it as we continued to build to this part, which is finally which teams could be interested in Brendan Sorsby and the possible potential that is it or isn't it worth the possibility of the punishment that he may receive. But let's dive in here just a second. All right, guys, we're going to do this 5th and final one here. So let's also ensure that you won't miss any of the great content right here on the All Gloves Off Sports Media YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, hit that bell. You know what to do. I don't have to tell you, but I do want to tell you about all the possibilities that you could have right here on this spot. You don't have to go to 5 or 6 different places. Just right here on All Gloves Off Sports Media. The Red Hot Reds, Minor League Mondays, Football with Cheese, the Lights Out Sports Podcast, Fanboys Unleashed featuring Mr. First Down, and Cheap Pop Society, our newest wrestling podcast that has joined the roster as well. So with that being said, and knowing that it's all free, please subscribe, ring the bell, like our programming, and as always, talk us up by sharing our great sports content on your social medias with all of your friends. All right, the 5th and final edition here as we talk about the supplemental draft and which teams might actually be interested in Sorsby. Let's start with the Miami Dolphins. They do have Malik Willis, former Packer quarterback, but I could see them trying to secure a backup quarterback who could also play long-term if Willis doesn't work out, because we don't know if he really is or really isn't. So I think Miami may be interested. The second team I'd like to talk about is the New York Jets. They still don't have a quarterback, or at least one they can't depend on. Not sure how they would evaluate him with so many more stable quarterbacks are coming out next year, but they could still take a chance on him. Plus, if you look at it as taking a chance, then they'll have 3 first-round picks next year, so they may be the ultimate team that takes a chance. They have their own, they have the one from the Colts, and the one from either of the Cowboys or the Packers, whichever's higher. So they could use one of those 3 picks and literally take a chance on Sorsby, and then they would still obviously have 2 more picks. They may look at it a little different than any other team in the NFL. The Cleveland Browns, of course. I mean, I'm not sure how many quarterbacks one team needs, but I guess the Browns are just going to keep drafting them and getting them until they get one that's good. God only knows how long that'll take. So they might actually take a chance on Sorsby too. Let's look at the New York Giants, the other New York team. Sorsby and Dart, their quarterback right now, are very similar. And most teams like to have their quarterbacks to be similar when one comes out, if one gets hurt or something like that, and it basically be as seamless of a transition as possible. Blocking schemes stay the same and so on and so forth. So because of this, and the fact that I'm not sure that the new regime is actually sold on Jackson Dart, I think they might decide to take a chance on Sorsby as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Since no one seems to know what Aaron Rodgers is doing, not even the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe not even Aaron Rodgers, this might be a great way for the Steelers to ensure they get a long-term quarterback if Rodgers doesn't come back. And even if he does, 1 year. So he's not going to be a long-term fix for him anyway. Then Sorsby can kind of fill in that backup role, and he could learn from Aaron Rodgers if Aaron Rodgers decides to talk to him. Minnesota. I don't think JJ's the answer, and I don't think many of you do either. Kyler is only there for 1 year, and if both of them fail, the Vikings are left without a quarterback again. It would be hard to sell the fan base on, basically saying, well, both the quarterbacks we have now are a bust, or, the alternative's not real great either, though. So I'm not sure how you'd sell it exactly, but Minnesota may think they need Sorsby, and they might take a chance. There's 2 more teams. The New Orleans Saints. Are the Saints happy with Shuck? Would they see this as an opportunity to get a safety blanket, possibly? If I were the Saints, I'd take a chance in the middle rounds or so, not in the first or the second. This could be a good fallback plan, though, if you decide not to give the rookie his 5th-year option and you go with Sorsby. And lastly, the Arizona Cardinals. They have 2 backup quarterbacks in Brissett and Gardner Minshew. Then they drafted an unproven Beck in this year's draft. Why not take a flyer on Sorsby? If nothing else, he adds to a healthy competition. Now, I will tell you this. You may go back, I've already given you another reason to go back and look at the Lights Out Sports podcast right here. Every Tuesday night it happens here on All Gloves Off Sports Media's YouTube channel. But Cheese, my co-host and good friend, had a very intriguing thought about why Arizona drafted Beck. And if that's true, it may be the same kind of thing for them drafting Sorsby. Lastly, I want to make this point. If one of these teams puts in, let's say, a second-round claim for Sorsby, and he hits, then you have the ability to still be bad and still be one of the top picks. And with all of these quarterbacks coming out and all these teams we just listed who need quarterbacks, maybe if you take Sorsby and he's a good quarterback for you, then you can get him a great weapon next year in the draft while everybody else is getting quarterbacks. That team can get Jeremiah Smith. Just a thought. And I want to thank you guys for being with us. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I want you to understand and remember what the great Ernie Banks said. In order to find out if you're a good sport, you have to lose. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.